for some vintage action. Hello and welcome to the first match of the night. Oliver Tew appears to be on a Mentor deck. Pretty much what we expected. Paul is on Tesserator. Love it. Never on the beaten path, always looking for new cool things to do. This doesn't look completely out of left field so far, but I mean, anything. I gotta love anything with an expedition map in it.
Yeah, he actually played one of the best matches, I think, in VSL history with a deck like this against Shuhei, where I actually fell asleep watching it. I mean, the game was so over, and I think it might be the only time that's ever happened. Of course, travel caused jet lag and things like that, and game wasn't going anywhere, and Shuhei had 7 counters in hand, and Paul had nothing in hand. But then I woke up to some wild excitement as Paul just came back and won that game. I ended up, of course, watching the replay on YouTube afterwards, being like, this could not be real life. Like, it was just absolutely incredible stuff.
Interesting decision on turn 1. Paul could have played his expedition map, decided to leave up Mystical Tutor instead, which I think makes sense given that something like a Wasteland could prevent it from activating map. That expedition map is going to go get Tolarian Academy is kind of the plan in this deck, but his draw is kind of artifact light, so this draw is slightly awkward. I assume you just Mystical for Ancestral there, right?
Well,
that's what he did.
There's a lot of things you can Mystical for in an unknown 60 cards, so in the dark,
fair.
Ancestral does make some sense.
He let Oliver. He said go though, so well. No, I guess Oliver had the Tundra up the whole time. He waited for Oliver's upkeep, so that if Oliver did have the counter spell, he at least wouldn't get the mana main phase.
Oliver's gonna play around Mental Misstep here and use Fluster Storm instead of Spell Pierce.
Right.
Now he's got the decision of whether to actually leave up the Spell Pierce or cast the Preordain. I think he's going to pass. Like, his hand is great, so he's not really risking too much. And next turn he's going to be able to cast, use both his fetch lands, cast Preordain, cast Treasure Cruise, still has Spell Pierce up the whole time.
Yep, I like your line. And Oliver agrees with you as well. Paul's draw needs some help at this point. Wow, do you Spell Pierce or Brainstorm? After having stopped Ancestral?
It's really tough. Like, it's super close. You wouldn't fault one way or the other. I think that in the dark, I would be hesitant to, just because I prefer to protect that Treasure Cruise. But it's certainly
he went for the Spell Pierce on Brainstorm. I think that was a very reasonable decision, and it worked out spectacularly well. Now he's going to see, he's just good old fashioned mana screwed at this point.
Yeah,
got some broken cards in his hand, but the Wasteland. Ancestral failed to resolve. Brainstorm failed to resolve. Now he's sitting on 3-drop, pseudo 5-drop. And Oliver's got just free reign. He should resolve a Treasure Cruise here. Oh, Black Lotus. That card's good. I guess he wants business here more than he wants extra mana.
Yeah.
Hard to complain too much about a Black Lotus, though.
Yeah, I mean, once you have 3 mana and you're playing them into a deck that probably stops at 3, if not, a couple Jaces at 4. It's not the best card in the world, but it's still Black Lotus.
Treasure Cruises into Preordain, Misstep, and Pearl. He kind of needs these Preordains to hit business. I mean, they should. It's hard to whiff on everything. Wow, Wasteland is going to be savage. And he finds a Gush as well.
All looking for Black Lotus here.
Yeah. Misstep the Expedition map. Wasteland the Underground Sea. Oliver is just nuking Paul back into the Stone Age. It's going to leave him with nothing. Sure, Gush. And there's the Mentor right on schedule. He's got the Lotus and the Pearl and the Time Walk, all of which he can play this turn, right?
Yeah,
then
Black Lotus will make sure you can always cast whatever you need.
He gets to Wasteland, he gets to start attacking with Mentors, and we're about to see their sideboards.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't find a blue card, Paul's not completely... yeah, he's just going to leave it. That was a smart play. Like, Paul was not completely dead. Right. Like, if he drew Black Lotus, he could cast Time Twister. He could potentially win the game that turn, depending on what he actually drew. Oliver saw his hand with Cataxian Probe and wisely decided not to cast Time Walk, instead just leaving it for Force of Will, and knowing that Paul's not going to cast anything relevant. You know, if he draws a blue card, you can cast Time Walk and just kill him basically in one turn. If not, he's going to kill him in a couple of turns. He still has Force of Will. So, well played there by Oliver. Of course, not necessarily the toughest position when your opponent is stuck on 1 or 0 lands the whole game, but
no, but there were a lot of
he did navigate it very well. Yes,
there were a whole bunch of judgment calls in that game, right? There was, what are you mystical for? Then from Oliver's point of view, do you Spell Pierce or do you Flusterstorm? Do you leave up Spell Pierce or cast your Preordain? There was actually quite a few interesting decisions that game, and I thought Oliver made all of them well.
Yeah, you're right. There were a lot of decisions to be made in that game. I think Oliver made all the correct ones. I think Paul made all the correct ones. My point being, even if he made all the wrong ones, he was going to win that game. Like, unless he wasted himself and, like, Paul didn't actually have the missteps, so the Spell Pierce was going to resolve. If he didn't Spell Pierce the Brainstorm, he still had the Spell Pierce in hand, and Treasure Cruise was going to resolve. So, like, all of these things, like, both players played the game very well, but one player was Master and the other one had a very good draw, so kind of was a bit lopsided.
I'll buy that. Oliver, probably not entirely sure what he's up against. I see he brought Arcane Lab in. I don't know if that card is actually good against Paul. I don't think it is.
Thought Casts and Time Twister. So you'd think Arcane Lab is going to be good against that.
I mean, it's always going to be okay, but yeah, Paul. This looks pretty similar to for Paul's first deck from last season. The Mere Battlesphere does not care about Arcane Lab. Yeah, but Time Twister, obviously, is the kind of card he wants to go off with. Paul has, turn 1 Time Twister. Is that good? It's naked, though. It's completely unprotected, so he'll get... Wow, it's the kind of hand where when you shuffle up a deck like this, you kind of have to keep it, but he is going to get completely destroyed by Oliver's Force of Will.
He can also just play turn 1 Library.
He can. He doesn't get to draw from it. He has to go turn 1 Library, say go... Then on his next turn, he can start drawing extra cards. And he has to...
Against the Mentor deck, that's pretty reasonable. He still has Strip Mine there, too. He can easily play the cards of his hand. Yeah, I don't think he's in any real rush to go off. I kind of like turn 1 Library here. I think that's what I would do.
It's definitely the
got a card missing in his... It's off screen right now. I need to pop out that graveyard.
Oh, it's an Ancestral Recall.
Well, that hand was going to be good on 6. Like, a 7-card hand with just a napkin.
Yeah, Paul's going to go for this.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. I mean, I see your point, but the Mentor deck can just force you to react pretty quickly. Okay, he gets to play the Expedition map too, and all right. Time Twister, how about we restart the game with me up 4 cards? What do you think? Oh. All right.
Well, Oliver is on 1 land, so if he did not have the Ancestral Recall, that Strip Mine could be pretty effective, but he has Ancestral Recall and he drew Black Lotus. He'll probably draw Mentor here and the game will just be over.
Yeah, so Oliver resolved 1 Git Probe. He now knows he's up against blanks. He just has to decide how he wants to sequence this, how he wants to use his mana. Does he want to Ancestral first? Is he sacking the Lotus for blue so he can do lots of cantrips?
Yeah, I like leading on Ancestral. You get to do a lot more if you happen to find something like the Mentor.
Yeah, I think the question was, are you fetching a land to pay for it, or are you going to go ahead and sack Black Lotus? And I don't know which answer's better. Wow, Snapcaster seems okay with this hand. And he's got a replacement Force of Will for whatever Paul top decks, and he gets to snap back Ancestral again. He's still on one land, but I mean the odds of failing are pretty small.
Right, he can also just go Jace and Preordain here.
Yeah, all right.
The Jace can flash back the Ancestral Recall next turn too.
Gush and Flooded Strand are the cards he sees. Definitely wants the Flooded Strand. Do you keep Gush there? I think I push it to try to find another land.
Yeah, I don't think I'm too concerned about finding land when you still have Gataxian Probe and you get the loot with Jace and you get to flashback Ancestral. It's close though.
We'll find out next turn.
Looks like he chose bottom. Well, the rest is a good draw. I mean, Paul's dead, but still a good start.
He's going to save the duress until he's got something to force through, maybe?
Sure.
Yeah, kept the Gush. Or that's a new Gush, but... Oliver waited on the second probe until Paul went through a draw step, so still has perfect information. And he's Gush flooded. Hard to be Gush flooded when you have Force of Will, I guess.
True. And you get to discard one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, this game is not that close.
Yeah, it's not actually over, but what do you put Oliver's chances at? 95? 98?
I would definitely take 20-1 on Oliver.
Yeah, well, yeah, I have them at above 95% as well.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't pick 100-1. Paul probably still has integer percentage chance. Look, after what he did to Shuhei last year, I'm not writing Paul off. No way.
Sure, but if you had taken 100-1 that game, you were still getting value. Like, if you had laid 100-1, I'm saying you were still getting value there. Shuhei took some interesting lines in that game, so yeah, I don't know. It feels pretty unimaginable. Obviously not impossible. But to say that he's even 1% to win feels like it might be stretching it a little bit.
I think he's got a couple percent, especially with a, well...
There's a Mentor on hand, there's a Time Walk he can play and flash back.
And I guess Gush gets him the Mentor mana. Like 2 turns ago when Oliver didn't have a Mentor or the mana for it, I thought Paul could hypothetically build up to a Library of Alexandria hand, start drawing 2 cards a turn, and somehow like get back into it. But now that Oliver has Mentor and Mentor mana, I would say Paul's chances just dipped below 1%.
I mean, if Oliver wanted to, he could have ultimated Jace before that library was even turned on. I mean, I don't know. He also has a bunch of Wastelands in his deck and in his hand.
Now he's got a bunch of Wastelands in his hand.
Yeah. This is happening.
Well, the good news is you're on track to get to go out with Athena tonight. Plenty of time. So far,
like
so
I said,
good.
we were going out one way or another. It was just whether everyone got to see 6 rounds or not.
Got it.
But yeah, this was not a slow match. We also have 4 players who are not slow Magic players, which is nice. I mean, these guys are playing real quick. This is fast for Luis, I feel like. Maybe it's
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Not fast for Luis, but this is Luisian in speed.
Luisian. I like that adjective.
It's got Vargasian.
Add that to the lexicon.
Mock Luis. I don't know. I guess, it is Paul. His chances of winning this game are probably better than the Patriots were of winning the Super Bowl.
Paul has now built up almost the library.
Well, he's still 2 turns away.
And there's only a wasteland in play plus a strip mine in Oliver's hand. Other than that, though.
Yeah. That's it. That's all he's got to get through.
Snapcaster.
And this is lethal now if he just wants to cast Preordain and misstep it.
Sure.
Yeah, the Mana Vault will just kill him. Oh, he drew a Mox too? Okay.
All right, looks like Oliver to you is going to take the quick 2-0 here. Paul's draws were not particularly good.
Well, he had a potential turn 1 this game. He just found what the great equalizer.
Right. He had the 1 threat, like explosive mana into 1 threat. Cross my fingers, hope my opponent doesn't have a Force of Will. Oliver did have the Force of Will. So there you go. Oliver up a match. You and I are up next. See the thumbs up for Oliver, the thumbs down for Paul. Everybody will have 3 thumbs by the end of the night. One way or the other.
Okay, I hope it's the one way, not the other.
Same, except the opposite. Yeah. All right, good luck, Eric. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back with Eric and I.